Hi everyone, it's Katrina. Reptilians in Mesopotamia. At the Mesopotamian site of Al-Ubaid, archaeologists discovered a series of unexplainable reptilian statues. Amazingly, the statues are estimated to be 7,000 years old. And the reason they have caught everyone's attention is that they could depict an ancient race of reptilians. Al-Ubaid was the dominant city during the Ubaid period of early Mesopotamia, starting around 5,500 BC. It's believed, but not proven, that Al-Ubaid was the place that kick-started civilization. The Ubaid culture came before the Sumerians, but their origins are largely unknown. Most mainstream scientists think they were primitive hunter-gatherers who banded together to form what may have been the first sophisticated society in the world. But others think the Ubaid culture was brought to life by reptilian creatures from outer space. The Ubaid figurines are absolutely mystifying, and they've been found in both male and female form. They are also unlike any other figurines that have been found in Mesopotamia. For that matter, they aren't like anything found anywhere else in the world. Each humanoid figure has unmistakable reptilian features, and they appear to have been used in some form of worship. It looks like they were effigies of mighty beings that were revered by the Ubaid culture, and some experts even think they may have been the true Anunnaki. One theory is that the reptilian figurines in Al-Ubaid were depictions of a race of lizard-like aliens who once dominated the entire globe. There were multiple ancient cultures who talked about lizard people. In Central and South America, they worshipped feathered serpents. The deity Quetzalcoatl was one such reptilian worshipped in Teotihuacan during the 1st century BC. The Maya worshipped a humanoid serpent named Kukulkan. And in Asian civilizations, there were myths of dragon emperors and snake gods. According to one Hindu legend, the well of Shashna in India was once the entrance to an underground city of the Nagas. The Nagas were believed to be a race of divine serpent people who dwelled in subterranean lairs. These stories are all slightly different, but also shockingly similar. So it's not out of the realm of possibility that the Ubaid figurines may have been modeled after reptilians who briefly ruled the world as gods. And now for number 6. But first, I want to give a big shout out to Lil Wizard and Twisted Gaming. Thank you both so much for watching and supporting Origins Explained. If you are new here, be sure to subscribe and join the family. The Mesopotamian Flood Myth. The flood story most people are familiar with, the one found in the Bible about Noah and his ark, was hardly the first flood story ever told. One of the earliest flood stories came out of Mesopotamia. According to Babylonian legend, the god Ea sent a flood to wipe out all of humanity, and every last person was to drown in the flood except for a human named Utnapishtim and his family. By building a large boat under the command of Ea, they were able to survive the catastrophe. And like the story from the Bible, they filled their large boat with pairs of animals so that the world could flourish when the floodwaters receded. Archaeologists have found proof of this story on clay tablets that are over 3,000 years old. And most scholars agree that the Mesopotamian flood myth inspired the biblical flood myth. Dr. Martin Worthington from the University of Cambridge is one of the top experts on the subject. He's an Assyriologist who specializes in literature from ancient Babylon, Assyria, and Sumer. Recently, he analyzed the ancient flood myth and came up with some interesting ways in which the story differs from the biblical version. According to Dr. Worthington, getting Utnapishtim to build the ark was a trick. The god Ea started by tricking the people of Mesopotamia. He told them that if they helped Utnapishtim build the ark, food would rain from the sky. But then, after the boat was finished, only Utnapishtim and his family were allowed on board, leaving everyone else to die. The moral of the story isn't what's important here. It's the fact that ancient Mesopotamia had a flood myth as well, just like nearly everywhere else in the world. Countless ancient civilizations spoke of a flood that annihilated almost all of humanity. In the case of Mesopotamia, Ea was behind the flood. Ea was a member of the Anunnaki, and he also went by the name Enki. The Mesopotamians believed the Anunnaki were the ones who flooded the world on purpose. But why did they do it? And what could flooding the world have possibly done for the Anunnaki? The Tablets of Destiny. In ancient Sumerian mythology, the Tablets of Destiny were a series of extremely important clay tablets that functioned as a sort of supercomputer. These tablets contained information on navigational routes, and they could be used as star maps. Within the tablets were all the most important battle tactics, and they even described how to neutralize Anunnaki aircraft. Sumerian mythology says that when the Anunnaki arrived on this planet, they went about building the first 7 cities. These cities were spread across modern Iraq between the major rivers of the Tigris and Euphrates, in the area known as Mesopotamia. The Anunnaki named the region Eden with an I, but it would later become Eden with an E in the Bible, and this was supposedly the first place where humans lived. Keep in mind that a lot of this is open to interpretation. Many who have read the original stories of the Anunnaki think the tales speak of aliens from space. The city of Larak was supposedly used as a kind of spaceport for the Anunnaki arriving on the planet, and other cities were used to process ore, which was to be taken off the planet to the homeworld of the Anunnaki. The control center was said to be the city of Nippur, led by the Anunnaki named Enlil, who was the supreme commander of the gods/aliens. And it was in Nippur where the Tablets of Destiny were stored. Legend has it that the tablets worked as keys to control spacecraft, activate weapons, and access knowledge. They worked just like microchips, holding information about military techniques, government decrees, laws, history, and technology, essentially all the information about the Anunnaki. But the tablets were supposedly stolen by an evil Anunnaki named Pazuzu. And without the tablets, much of their technology was suddenly rendered useless. The Anunnaki were unable to navigate their routes through space to get back to their home world. And this led to a rapid decline of the Anunnaki civilization on Earth because they could no longer escape. The celestial beings were suddenly reduced to mortals, stuck on the planet. They ruled over the lesser human life forms as long as they could, but eventually they died. They tried to pass on their knowledge of technology to the simple humans. Then the humans took what they could from the Anunnaki and continued enhancing civilization. They made the Anunnaki into gods instead of real physical beings from another world. And Pazuzu became a mythical demon of evil, later being transformed by Christians into the devil. This is only one interpretation of the story of the Tablets of Destiny. Some believe the tablets were hidden by Pazuzu somewhere in the world, where they remain out of sight to this very day. But if the tablets are ever discovered, humans could finally gain the information stolen from the Anunnaki. The War in Heaven. What if everything you thought you knew about heavenly angels was wrong? According to the myths of the Anunnaki, they arrived on this planet with the sole purpose of mining gold. They were the mighty ancient astronauts who ran the whole show, but they weren't the only ones around. According to some interpretations of ancient Mesopotamian texts, there was another group called the Igigi. Just like the Anunnaki, the Igigi came from another world and fell into orbit around Earth. The Igigi weren't nearly as mighty as the dominant Anunnaki, though. They were more of a worker class, while the Anunnaki were the elite class. And in this scenario, humans were merely slaves that were used to mine gold. Mainstream scholars have decrypted the ancient Sumerian texts as saying the Igigi were the young servants of the Anunnaki, and their story ties in with the rise of human civilization and the Mesopotamian flood myth. The human slaves were used to mine important minerals from the planet. Those minerals were then processed by the Igigi, who were said to reside in the heavens, or in reality on giant platforms that orbited the Earth and were outfitted with mineral processing facilities. The Igigi didn't initially have much contact with humanity. They were, as the texts say, too high up for mankind. But then came the rebellion. Lore states that the Igigi suddenly lashed out against their masters, the Anunnaki. There was a war in heaven, or in other words, there was a war in the sky. And it was such a disaster that the Anunnaki were then forced to use humans as their sole source of labor. The rebellious Igigi were subsequently cast down from the heavens to the earth, and later they were destroyed in the Great Flood. If this story sounds familiar, that's because it's in the Bible. Many scholars have noted the uncanny resemblance between the Igigi rebellion and the rebellion of Lucifer's angels against God. The theory is that the story of the angel rebellion in heaven was based on a real rebellion of servant-class aliens against the Anunnaki. But what do you think about this whole thing? Could angels really just be aliens? Let me know in the comments below. And while you're at it, be sure to subscribe. Marduk. In ancient Mesopotamia, Marduk was the most important of all the gods. Marduk was the son of Ea, otherwise known as Enki, the lord of all the Anunnaki. Marduk was the god of justice, magic, and regeneration, and he was also believed to be a god of storms and master of the skies. The Greeks likely used Marduk as inspiration for their own king of the gods, Zeus. The Romans associated Marduk with Jupiter, and in Babylon he was the king of kings, typically displayed in artwork joined by a reptilian creature. Marduk's wife was the fertility goddess Sarpanitu, and they had a son together named Nabu, the god of scribes and literacy. Marduk wasn't initially popular in Mesopotamia. It wasn't until the reign of Hammurabi in 1792 BC that Marduk rose to prominence. Before him, the most important god had been his father Ea, and in the ancient city of Babylon, even the goddess of warfare Inanna enjoyed greater popularity prior to the rise of Marduk. One theory is that Marduk was the real biological son of Ea, the first ruler of the Anunnaki. There is even an ancient myth in which Marduk deposes his father as the ruler of the gods. Marduk allegedly forced Ea to step back while he took the throne of Anunnaki king. But was this something that really happened? The story is very similar to other creation myths across the world. For example, Zeus destroying his own father Cronus to take the throne of the gods. Zeus got rid of the old Titans ruled by his father and took over the world. And from Zeus came the demigods like Hercules, and from them came human children. Could the legend of Marduk be what really happened to the Anunnaki? Did they slowly change from gods to mortal men? Unfortunately, there is no way to know for sure, but it's still an interesting story to think about. The Brotherhood of the Snake. The Brotherhood of the Snake is one of the most enigmatic secret societies that ever existed. Nobody knows the real truth of the Brotherhood, but they are linked to some extremely controversial theories. The Brotherhood of the Snake was supposedly connected with extraterrestrials during the days of the Mesopotamians. They were the humans who worked on behalf of the aliens, aka the Anunnaki, to control human affairs, and they started in early Mesopotamia around 5,000 years ago. Then the Brotherhood of the Snake, also called the Brotherhood of the Serpent, spread into other parts of the world. They perforated Egypt and initiated the building of the pyramids. They were even the ones who wrote the Bible. They were also deeply involved in the Knights Templar, and in more recent years, the Brotherhood of the Snake has been involved in Freemasonry and the Illuminati. There is very little in the way of physical evidence to prove the Brotherhood ever existed. In truth, they lie in the realm of pseudo-history, but they get a lot of credit for stuff. The supporters of the Brotherhood of the Snake use them as an umbrella to shelter all the major conspiracy theories about ancient aliens. And the idea is that they were founded in early Sumer by Ea himself, the lord of the Anunnaki. Snakes have always been important to the group because Ea and the other Anunnaki were reptilian beings. Some have credited the Brotherhood with using the knowledge of the gods against them, shattering the Anunnaki. But others think they continue to work for the Anunnaki to this very day. And if this theory is real, they'd be the oldest and most powerful secret society ever formed by humans. The Sumerian King List. The Sumerian King List is real physical proof of humanity being ruled by the Anunnaki. The tablets of destiny might be hard to believe for a lot of people since they seem so fanciful. But the Sumerian King List is real, written in the late 3rd millennium BC during the Ur-3 period. It's an ancient manuscript written by human hands that was discovered by archaeologists in the early 1900s. American scholar Herman Hilprecht found the list in the ancient city of Nippur. And if you recall, I told you about the 7 cities built by the Anunnaki in Iraq when they first arrived on the planet. Nippur was the capital of those cities, the control center where the tablets of destiny were stored. That city was a real place occupied by Sumerians at the dawn of civilization. The king list was then written in the cuneiform script about 4,000 years ago. The list is exciting because it gives an account of Sumerian history. It details the years that every king of Sumer ruled. There are dozens of kings on the list that archaeologists know for a fact existed, but there are also a lot of names on the list that are synonymous with the names of gods. At the top of the list are the names of 8 kings who ruled the planet for a combined total of 241,200 years. The names on the list include Anunnaki gods and mythical heroes like Gilgamesh. The way in which the gods are blended with the humans makes the Sumerian king list feel like a real historical document. The top of the list reads as follows. After the kingship descended from heaven, the kingship was in Eridu. In Eridu, Al-Ubaid became king. He ruled for 28,800 years. This correlates to the beginning of the Anunnaki on Earth, with the aliens ruling for impossibly long periods of time. Other rulers held the throne for extended terms as well, periods between 21,000 years and 43,000 years. Then the list says the flood swept over. Literally, that's all the document says. The flood swept over. And after that line, the rulers suddenly began having much shorter reigns. After the flood, the kings of Mesopotamia only ruled for about 900 years each. As you go down the list, the years get shorter and shorter. The longevity of kings eventually drops to normal levels of a maximum of around 80 years. And that's when the names of rulers can be linked to real people. The list seems to detail the slowly draining longevity of the original gods who ruled the world as they were replaced by mortals. Thanks for watching! Do you think the Mesopotamian gods were really aliens from another planet? Let me know what you think in the comments below. Be sure to subscribe and give this video a thumbs up for more, and I'll see you next time. Bye!